The only thing that I know is that you are full of lies. But you are not going to fool me again. And don't you even think that you're going to come out of this one alive. Where are you? Tell me. You should at least face me, you darn woman!
Don't you look at me like that, Karina. I know that you're expecting Rodrigo's baby.
I want us to take advantage so that we can fix a pending issue that we've had for many years. Our divorce.
Well, you can forget about it. I'm not signing it.
Las bandidas.
It is the 26th day. It is the 26th day in the month of July 2023, the day that the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition called off the intended strike. This as they allow their supporters to honor the victims from the series of the strikes that took place in the country. We are on that beat this as we're expecting a statement from State House in Mombasa. My name is Irene Mchuma Odem. Good afternoon. Let's interact on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. Our top focus this afternoon, the Communication Workers Union has joined the fray of unions calling for dialogue to end the political stalemate, which they say is threatening performance of workers. Co-Secretary General Benson Kwaro urged both sides of the divide to tone down their utterances and embrace dialogue for the sake of the country's development. At the same time, he decried the implementation of the 2023 finance bill, which he says has presented a challenge for unions to negotiate new collective bargaining agreements with employers.
I can only plead with the other people to to meet with them and discuss issues of importance, issues of the finance bill, issues about the cost of living in this country, and how this country can go forward. If there are issues where they think there should be amendment of the constitution so for the future, so be it. But if it has got to go on the way it is today, then it's just going to destroy this country. Because at the end of the day, we have 10 people lost, we have property destroyed, and that cannot build an economy of this country.
Kenya has been challenged to invest in local manufacturing of wheelchairs. With over 400,000 wheelchair users in the country, some have had difficulties accessing them due to financial constraints. Meanwhile, calls have been made for the implementation of the Disability Act, especially on making buildings accessible to persons with disability.
The launch of Hope Mobility Center along Mombasa Road has signaled a new dawn for persons living with disability in Kenya. The center, founded by Michael Panther, will focus on assessing the condition of the person living with disability and issuing wheelchairs and clutches based on their needs.
I saw the need and the struggle for people with disability here when I was here in Kenya, and when I had an opportunity to go to the U.S. And saw how people with disability are treated, it gave me a passion to come back here and to serve those who are in need.
So we have professionals on the ground in the organization who are able to interrogate and check out someone's state, and after that, they're able to give the right wheelchair that person is needing.
Call a Hope Haven, and this is a cab. With over 400,000 wheelchair users in Kenya, East Africa Legislative Assembly Member of Parliament David Sankok is calling for Kenya and the region to tap into this unmet need.
400,000 wheelchair users are sitting on a metallic equipment worth 12 billion. That is a business enterprise for somebody else. There are 3 million people in East Africa community who are sitting on wheelchairs. That is a business worth more than 90 billion. We really need to invest in it.
Sankok is, however, calling for issuance of proper wheelchairs and clutches to avoid furthering the deformity.
If you give me crutches that are shorter, I'll walk bending down. And when I walk bending down, my back will also develop some kind of deformity, and that causing disability.
Former Nyandarua Governor Francis Kimemia called for equal opportunities for the vulnerable group, while urging the society to shun stigmatization.
Tushikane pamoja kuwe na sheria moja ambayo inatuwezesha kusaidia walemavu wetu iwezavyo. Sio tu kuwapatia mashine za kutembea, lakini akitembea anatembea kwenda wapi? Ataenda kufanya nini? Ako na skill, ako na mahali, ako na duka yake. Atakuja ivunjwe kesho akifungua hiyo duka.
Lakini serikali ikakuwa inahakikisha kila mtoto mwenye ulemavu anapata wheelchair mzuri, anapata devices zenye anahitaji. Kama ni shule, tukuwe na special school, special unit.
Nancy Kware, Lunchtime News.
A section of domestic workers in Eastleigh area in Nairobi County have complained of increased cases of exploitation and poor payment from employers amid the high cost of living. Speaking in Nairobi, the women at the same time blamed workers who are willing to take low wages, saying it has made their efforts to fight for better payment difficult. Domestic workers are now calling on the government to intervene and set standard minimum wages for domestic workers. The Kenya Union of Domestic Hotels, Educational Institutions, Hospitals and Allied Workers, Courier, has called on all households to report cases of exploitation and mistreatment.
Domestic workers with the dignity they deserve. We are also calling the government that they should consider ratifying the convention number 189 that talks about decent work for domestic workers, so that we can be able to have this sector being recognized and being regulated as it is as required to do, as they are workers like any other workers.
Sometimes unaweza ajiriwa wewe ni mfanyakazi, umeambiwa ukiingia kwa hii nyumba ni vyombo, kufua na nyumba, lakini unapata umeongezwa kazi mingi na pesa naye ni kidogo. Sasa upande ya pesa ndio imetuumiza kabisa. Aswa kwanza, kama saizi bila uchumi iko juu, unashindwa utafanya nini, na inabidi tu vumilie ufanye hiyo kazi.
Kwanza saa hii ukienda watoto wadogo na ukiona vile wanadhulumiwa, hata unarudi wewe unanyamaza, afadhali wewe mtu mkubwa. Lakini mtoto mdogo ukiona vile anadhulumiwa, mtoto anafanya kazi, anarudi analala kwa balcony, na amefanya kwa nyumba, ameshinda akifanya kazi, na anarudi kulala kwa balcony. Unajua hiyo ni mbaya. Na analipo mshahara 2,000. Saa nyingine hata afanye akose kupewa chakula apewe. Sio ni ngumu.
Nancy, Roda na Beach.
A section of non-locals in Mandera County are now calling on the government to facilitate their movement to their home county. The calls followed an increased number of cases of attacks in the region, which has led to the closure of some roads. The residents claim several attacks on public transport has led to fear and some road impassable. They, however, lament the double increase in air tickets, an amount majority can't afford. The Mandera-Moyale-Nairobi routes remain impassable due to cases of insecurity attributed to the fueled Al-Shabaab.
Na shule karibu kufungwa, 2 weeks to time shule itakuwa inafungwa. Tutakuwa tuchukue watoto wetu tuweze kukaa na wao nyumbani. Hakuna vile tunaweza kusafiri.
Serikali iingililie kati na iweze kusaidia mambo especially ya transport hapa Mandera. Bwana County Commissioner, the governor and the entire county government, including the national government. Tunaomba ya kwamba tuingililie kati kwa hii mambo ya security.
Swala la transport imekuwa kidonda suku sana, na watu wetu hawalali usingizi kwa sababu ya mambo ya transport. Venye tunaongea hivi, watu wetu sasa hawezi safiri.
Now, 50% of the world's mangroves have been wiped out in the last half century, and human activity has been the driver of this damage. As Kenya joined the world in marking World Mangrove Day, a community in the coastal region has embarked on restoration efforts to conserve over 300 hectares of mangrove forest along Mandera Creek that had been depleted. The community says the initiative will also support their beekeeping project, which is a major source of their livelihood. Take a look.
As the world marks the International Day for the Conservation of the Mangrove Ecosystem, the Uyombo Sub-Greek Conservation Group in the coastal region, comprising of 26 members, has taken up the challenge of restoring over 300 hectares of mangrove forest along Mandera Creek that had been depleted. The group led by Janet Tatu says that through the initiative, they have been empowered on the importance of conserving mangrove, saying they have realized the importance of harnessing mangrove's honey that is quite sustainable, given that mangroves could produce flows all round the year.
Wakati mwingine tukienda tukiwaona kule tukiwaongelesha vizuri, kuambia kwa nini mnakata hii mikoko na mikoko iko na manufaa, wengine wao wanakuwa wakali kiasi cha kwamba hata wanatuhatarisha maisha.
Kwa hivyo sisi kama shirika la Kenya Forest Service pamoja na WWF tukiwa mahali hapa tunashirikisha wananchi kuhakikisha ya kwamba msitu huu wa Mida unaweza kuboreshwa.
The biggest challenge has been in the enforcement and control of illegal destruction by loggers and fishermen who dig beneath the mangrove to extract fishing worms, weakening the ecosystem where a lot of the trees are uprooted and end up drying.
We have actually trained them on mangrove restoration and also on monitoring so that they can help in monitoring the restored sites to ensure sustainability of restoration initiatives.
The project is supported by the World Wildlife Fund. Opicho Chemtai for Lunchtime News.
All right, let's cross over to the county of Mombasa. I understand the State House is issuing a statement. This comes amid the calls by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition to urge its supporters to remember the victims of the strikes that took place in the country. Janae Karisa is in Mombasa. Let's cross over and listen in.
Asante. Wacha nianze na wewe ndo basi tuongea mambo mengine ya pwani. So kila rais ambaye anakuja Kenya, or any president who comes to meet the president of Kenya, there are established protocols na Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Okay? So they will communicate and they will handle all the protocol, and of course we will know that a president or a visiting head of state or president has come to meet the president of the republic. Of course, that is not to say a president can come to a country or cannot come to a country for holiday or whatever. But for all the presidents that have come to meet the President of the Republic of Kenya, it has been documented. We have all seen that several heads of state have come to meet the President of Kenya through established protocols in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Hiyo ingine ndugu yangu aliyesema hiyo kitu, aliyesema alikuwa hapa, I think that is the best person to address that question to. Okay? You had asked me about Dongo Kundu. Of course, it came with some impacts to the locals in terms of resettlement. So since November to date, the resettlement of project-affected persons is as follows. The planning, survey, and beaconing of 491 acres for resettlement of these people is complete. Printing of 1,648 title deeds, again, is complete. In terms of compensation, out of 1,756, 1,360, that's about 77%, have received and accepted the awards. Okay? The handling of grievances of the remainder is ongoing, of course, through the National Lands Commission. I hope I've answered your question. And of course, on the other hand, we have the EPZA. I think it's just good to give you an update. Export Processing Zone Authority. 12 zones have been gazetted since November as designated areas where several investors in different sectors will operate. And these investments are totaling to about 924 million and have created, in that about 6 or 8 month period, 2,400 jobs. There was another question, I think, on port operations. Yes, that was a pledge the president made, and I would kindly urge us to be patient. He'll come here and he'll tell us, and he'll tell all of you, of course, the impact. But just briefly, since between January and June this year, increase in cargo has gone up by 3.3%, of course, since the president made that decision. And additionally, container traffic during the same period increased by about 8.5%. And we have the exact figures that I can share with you. There was another question, I believe, on police brutality. Alleged, that's what I'll tell you to, the word I'll tell you to use is, I'll urge you to use is alleged, okay? But, of course, you know the police is an independent organ or organization. We must respect and uphold their independence, and the president has always reiterated that. So I'll just, my brother, I'll refer you to the statement by the CS Interior last night or yesterday, if you saw. He made his position on this matter clear on claims of police brutality. And of course, he said those claims are false, malicious, and intended to distort public opinion regarding the recent orgy of violence that took place in some parts of the country. I am actually reading word for word, a few words verbatim of what he said, because we respect the independence of the police and all the other institutions. I think that's it. Kuna swali moja ya Africa Russia Summit. Si mmekuwa mkimsikiza rais katika ziara zake za nje and what he has been saying and the reforms that he has been pushing. But of course, this is even beyond him in terms of reforms at the African Union. The president has always said, and of course it's a decision by the African Union, that for Africa to have a better engagement within a framework with other external entities, whether it's a nation or whether it's a union or a region, for example, EU or a country like Russia, if they want to engage Africa, a decision was made by the African Union heads of state. They decided that they will be represented by organs of the African Union to such meetings, because that goes beyond a one-on-one meeting or bilateral meeting between a president and a president. It's between Russia and Africa, and the organ, therefore, that represents Africa, according to that decision of the Assembly, is the African Union. So he'll be represented according to that decision of the African Union. Asanteni sana, nawashukuru sana. Asante.
State House spokesperson Hussein Mohammed addressing members of the press from the county of Mombasa. This as President William Ruto is expected to begin a 5-day working tour of the Coast region on Thursday. State House spokesperson Hussein Mohammed, speaking ahead of the tour of the president, say that the president will begin his tour in Lamu County before moving to the county of Mombasa. Among issues he will address will include matters touching on food security, maritime affairs, the blue economy, as well as the social welfare of the people. Additionally, Hussein was non-committal on claims by opposition leader Raila Odinga that Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu was in the country following an invite by President William Ruto to arbitrate between the government and the opposition coalition. Jane Karisa is on that bit. We'll be waiting for later developments in the day. Now, back to the county of Nairobi, rather Kiambu County. Traders in the region are reeling from the massive effects of the anti-government protests that left the sector hard hit. The traders said they were trying to recollect from the huge losses they incurred as a result of the demonstrations called by the opposition leaders to push the government to lower the high cost of living. Led by area ODM chairman Evans Omondi and market chairperson Omboi wa Githurai, the traders noted they would not allow anyone to disrupt their daily activities as they have no alternative means of livelihood. They spoke following the announcement by the opposition to temporarily suspend the demonstrations in order to mourn those who lost their lives during violent clashes with police.
Mali tumefika, hiyo mambo ya maandamano haitatusaidia hapa. Mtu wache tufanye biashara zetu kwa amani. Ukienda pale kwa nyanya, tangu maandamano zianze, watu wa nyanya wanaingianga pale kwa soko saa 8 saa 9 usiku. By saa 2 nyanya zimeisha. These people depend on this. Dawa ya kupata solution to our problems, maandamano I don't think is one of them. Maandamano will not sort it out. We must find another solution.
Ile kitu ningeomba vijana wetu msikubali kutumiwa hata kidogo, kwa sababu unatumiwa na mtu ambaye ako na medical cover. Wewe hauna kitu, kwa hivyo usikubali kutumiwa.
Na tunataka amani sababu tunaipenda. So sisi tunataka amani na tumeishi kwa amani all along.
Hundreds of residents of Ngong, Kiserian and Ongata Rongai towns in Kajiado North Sub-County will benefit from the roads upgrade program after years of neglect. The populous metropolitan region of Kajiado County will receive a major facelift courtesy of the Kenya Urban Road Authority, which took over from the Kenya Rural Roads Authority in 2021.
Speaking during a consultative meeting with residents and other stakeholders in Kajiado County to outline their score of job annually, Grace Muna, a civil engineer with Kenya Urban Road Authority, said the program will target a couple of feeder roads annual as per the residents' priorities.
Tumechukua barabara kadhaa, Rongai, Kiserian na Ngong area. So as a result of that, each and every year we'll be doing some works on several roads.
Engineer Grace Muna said several roads in the 3 towns will be tarmacked and several others rehabilitated this year.
Na kuna barabara zingine zenye Kera wanafanya which are also supposed to be handed over to us, kama ile barabara kwenda Ololua na barabara kutoka Matasia hadi Magadi Road side ya Rongai. So those are some of the roads that we'll be doing in terms of the Ngong area.
Residents want a road to informal settlement, especially in Ngong, to be given the first priority. They have lauded the program, saying it's long overdue. Kajiado North Member of Parliament Onesmus Ngogoyo urged the road agencies to ensure contractors source for materials from within for locals to benefit.
Na kwingine pia wamekuwa na changamoto ya kupata materials nzuri za kuweza kutengeneza, na chochote ile itafanyika, wananchi, serikali na the stakeholder mkuu ambaye ni kura wanaweza kukua kwa page moja wakiweza kupanga kazi.
Lucy Uside for Lunchtime News.
To education concerns, an ambitious education program has been launched by a church in Samburu County aimed at enhancing access to education for the nomadic community. Children will now enjoy education following the rollout of evening classes to ensure children who often had livestock during the day can learn in the evenings. Residents of Barsaloi, who are the greatest beneficiaries of the evening classes, have hailed the move.
It is a relief to these children.
were often out during the day to herd their livestock and hardly get a chance to attend school.
Naenda asubuhi kushunga mbuzi, jioni nakuja Chogoti kusoma.
The children now have a chance to attend classes courtesy of Barsaloi Catholic Church, who have introduced evening classes commonly known as El Chekuti in the community.
Masomo ya Chekuti yanasaidia sisi. So naomba watu wa El Chekuti waende kusoma.
Wale wengine ambao wataweza kutusaidia, mtusaidie ndio watoto wetu wasiwe kutumiwa ovyo ovyo wakikaa nyumbani.
Sister Rosalia Cavorella, who is the founder of the program, appealed to the locals to take their children to school, noting a consistent increase in enrollment.
Children are considered the best ones, the intelligent ones, and this program helps them in literacy with the basic knowledge, but we want to improve more the life of them.
So far, 300 children have been enrolled to the program. Jacqueline Mashara for Lunchtime News.
Integrated internally displaced persons living in Kianjogu village, Laikipia County, have given the government an ultimatum of 21 days to resettle them, failure to which they say they will march to State House. Speaking in Jericho camp, the IDPs have called upon the government to fulfill its promise of giving them land and compensation money, claiming life has been unbearable for them. Most of them eke their living from the casual work. The camp hosts over 3,600 persons, with the majority of them being elderly women and children.
Tunaomba serikali yetu, tafadhali, hawa watu waondolewe hapa, maana tunajua mashamba yako hapa, na sijui haya mashamba hakuna mtu anayalima.
Tunakuliwa na wanyama, iko ndovu, nyoka, vizi, yote iko hapa. Sisi tuko na shida mingi.
Kwanza ni chakula, ya pili ni maji, ya tatu ni huduma bora hatuna yoyote hapa katika hema yetu.
Parents in Courier Primary School in Laikipia North have decried the lack of water in the school and the region, which they say is affecting sanitation and hygiene of their children. The parents say that children are forced to fetch dirty water for use. Lack of enough teachers in the school was also cited as a challenge that is affecting education standards in the region. They have urged TSC to deploy more teachers in the area.
Tuko na shida ya maji, watoto wetu hawaogi. Hata wakati wako na chakula kwa hii shule, watoto wanabeba maji kwa makibuyu.
Watoto pia wa shule wanatumia hii maji. Kuna wakati wanakujanga mandofi ikiwa, sasa wanarudi shule kukaa bila maji. Na huko nyumbani hakuna maji ingine, kwa sababu hakuna mahali ingine maji kutapatikana, ni hapa tu.
Hatuna mwalimu wa kutosha hii shule. Na sisi amesoma watoto tuko nyumbani. Tunaomba serikali watie hiyo watoto yetu gazi ya kuwa mwalimu na kuja kukumbuliza hiyo watoto yetu.
To environmental concerns, climate activists have urged the government to consider reinstating the ban on logging amid fears the gains made in afforestation across the country could be reversed. The environmental lovers say lifting of the ban will affect the country's water towers.
Climate champions are warning the lift of the ban on logging could spell doom for the country.
We know what deforestation means to our republic, especially on a timeline where we are all acting on the Vision 2030 that talks about 15 billion Jazamiti initiative. So we highly discourage the issue of the ban that was lifted for logging in the country.
The activists are calling on policymakers to implement measures that will enhance climate resilience and adaptations, particularly for vulnerable communities and ecosystem.
People grapple with, yet they have very few and less representation in climate development talks. It's high time we take stock of that, and it's high time that we fund grassroots initiatives that are working towards sustainable development change, especially in the areas to do with climate change.
While calling upon individuals to take part in fighting for climate justice, the climate activists emphasized the need of involving young people who are likely to suffer the effects of climate change.
When we instill the DNA of caring for our environment at a young age, we get the importance and we bear the fruits of climate ecosystem justice.
They also urged businesses to eliminate deforestation from their supply chains and commit to sourcing products sustainably.
Those who are running industries should see how best they can control the pollutions, and everybody else around to try and plant trees. It's a call for all of us.
Akumu Anna for Lunchtime News.
Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. We are taking a break. When we'll be back, we'll be in with more news. And on business, we'll be touching on food safety. Stay with us.
Nimekuja tu bila nimesikia habari njema.
Pia wewe unajua baba mtoto ni nani na anapanga kuja lini kujijulisha kwetu.
Mimi sitaki mambo ya mahari kutoka kwako, na mimi sitakubali hiyo union yako na Jane.
Congratulations, man. And that's it. Because everyone thinks that I'm the one responsible.
Wewe unatakiwa utafute Trish.
I don't need advice from either you or Trish.
Oh, have you told Mark who the father of the child is?
I don't want to talk, Mark.
Tamaniambi wants to take care of that child.
You know, Mark, he just talks big. Sasa umekuwa mzazi.
Unajua mimi bado mimi ni msichana. Wa mama ni wewe na Madhe.
Welcome to the club.
Jamani, hebu nitumieni hata kama ni kale kadeni kangu kale kanusu mwezi.
Bidi tuwe na mpango mzuri. Mimi naona nikiendelea hivi zari nitalipuka au nitachizi.
Nadhani unaweza kuwa perfect kama Rick bila kwenda shule design.
Lazima nianze pale na nimeamua kwanza hapa.
Kwa hivyo samahani kwa hilo bwana Dingo.
Lakini hilo si lililoleta. Ni kuhusu wewe na mke wangu.
Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. Welcome back. Now, women have been challenged to take up active roles in decision-making, especially in politics and peace-building initiatives. This was the clarion call during the Women's Voices Empowerment Public Forum held at the University of Nairobi. The meeting focused on the importance of empowering other women in various sectors of the economy. The event was aimed at empowering women and fostering dialogue on the role of women in decision-making amid calls for the actualization of the 2/3 gender clause as envisaged in the Constitution.
They are struggling with gender-based violence, they are struggling with leadership, they are struggling with peace and security. So all this put together, I can say in Kenya, we have made progress, but we are not there. We can only get better by building from those building blocks.
Women go for inclusion. Women don't just carry women, they carry everybody else. And we ensure that we carried everybody in our agenda. As we included women, we ensured that other marginalized people were not left behind.
We have now more women in leadership today, but sometimes they seem to be compromised and not bringing out the voices that actually need to be brought out more strongly and to be heard by the people, both men and women. That's what I would.
If we change our mindset about how we see any woman, then it means that we will start respecting what a woman is able to do.
More than 22,000 Bodaboda operators from all 40 wards in Kitui County have been trained on road safety measures. This is after the Ministry of Transport in Kitui organized a one-week exercise forum to ensure the safety of both operators and their customers. Addressing the Bodaboda operators during the exercise, the director of the Ministry of Transport, Peter Moasia, said that increased cases of deaths among the operators are mainly due to recklessness. He urged them to form cooperatives where they can be funded through loans.
Pia ya kuwafunza mambo ya kimaisha, mambo ya uzima, mambo ya afya yao. Tuko na mpango pia ya kuhakikisha kwamba wale wanabodaboda tumewapea reflectors, tumewapea helmets.
Moja ya kuimarisha hii njia na mpango wa bodaboda ni kwa kuipea support kwa njia ya kuweka pesa kando ya hiyo ministry ama department iwe na iko na pesa enough ya kufanya hizo kazi.
Gusii Stadium is set to undergo yet another round of renovation. The decision comes after recent matches in the National Premier League faced disruptions due to waterlogging and other structural challenges that have been affecting the smooth running of matches. During Shabana FC's homecoming celebration following their victory in the league, Governor Simba Arati cited water flooding as among the reasons behind the decision to renovate the stadium.
Due to the challenges witnessed in this stadium during the NSL matches, such as difficulties in crowd control and flooding of the beach, we are set to embark on further renovation of the stadium to improve conditions and meet standards.
Welcome to Channel 1 Business News. Courier service provider Glovo has partnered with the Nairobi County government to train courier personnel on safety standards while also promoting professionalism and best practices within the dispatch, courier and delivery driver community. The initiative, dubbed the Catalyst Project, is set to train 150 couriers within Nairobi County.
Under the Catalyst Project, essential training sessions will be conducted to educate couriers on advanced motorcycle riding techniques, ensuring heightened road safety. Moreover, couriers will receive in-depth instruction on customer service, financial literacy, and digital skills, all of which are crucial for fostering a thriving courier ecosystem.
Around 150 couriers that will go through 3 sets of training. One is financial management, safety driving, and then they are also going to be registered to get driving licenses for those that would like to partner with delivery platforms but might be lacking the required documents for them to be able to do that formally.
Officials say the project has been curated to drive positive change in the courier industry by promoting safer roads, enhancing customer experiences, and positively impacting the overall growth of couriers.
One among 4 initiatives that we signed on, and so it was courier training, training the SMEs as well, ensuring that we are bringing more digital tools to the economy and more so to Nairobi where most of our businesses are. And then the other one was around sustainable development, which ensures that the packaging that the restaurants are using and so on are actually from renewable materials.
Under the program, courier personnel will also benefit from safety gear and free eyesight checks to enhance courier safety.
It is with great excitement and anticipation that we come together to unveil the commencement of a comprehensive training program that promises to reshape the way we deliver convenience and positively impact the lives of millions in Nairobi.
Nduta Mokami for Lunchtime News.
All right, after a series of demonstrations by the opposition in the country, Nomadic returned at the Central Business District in the county of Nairobi. However, today we are doing a spot check on how business persons are conducting their activities. My colleague Michael Mwandiga is on that bit. Michael, good afternoon.
Just to say on how things are here in the aftermath of the anti-government demonstrations just
Our apologies for that technical hitch. Michael Mwandiga is at the Central Business District in the county of Nairobi to bring us the picture of how things are after the opposition called off the anti-government protests and also after the resumption of business after the series of protests conducted by the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. Now back to business news. National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndung'u says the middle class have a major role to play in economic transformation for African countries. Professor Ndung'u says the middle class are innovative and investors at the domestic level who spend drive economic growth.
Growing the middle class is the one that is going to help us in terms of reversing this trend, especially the demographic dividend, the peace dividend, and all the dividends that you can think about. And that is something that we believe that the institutional quality and functioning markets is going to support, is going to boost that middle class. Why do I say this? First, they have a preference for peace. Second, they are the innovative group, and they are the investors at the domestic level. And of course, their consumption levels on average are much higher. And they are keen for markets to work. I've seen studies that are linking school feeding programs to smart agriculture and to climate change. You can imagine that for itself in terms of that linkage is going to be very, very important.
All right, let's get back to the Central Business District in the county of Nairobi, where Michael Mwandiga is doing a spot check on how things are. Mwandiga, good afternoon.
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Mchuma. Indeed, you're coming to you live from the CBD. We're just doing a spot check on the aftermath of the demonstrations and the way the situation is at the moment in the CBD. Remember that the Azimio coalition had announced earlier on that they will be having the 3-day anti-government demonstrations to compel the government to lower the cost of living. But there was change of tune as by yesterday with Azimio saying that rather than having the demonstrations, they'll be having solidarity parades and vigils for those, they say, the victims of the police brutality. And a spot check we have done today in the CBD, we have seen or experienced a relative calmness in the city. Businesses are up and going, though at a snail pace. We had earlier on talk to traders, and they say that most of the people had anticipated that today there will be demonstrations in the city, and so most of the people didn't throng the city just to carry out their usual activities. But as of yesterday, the announcement by Azimio, most of them, yes, thronged the city, yes, and businesses were up and running, but though at a snail pace. And the traders saying that there are no businesses not doing much as of earlier days, but as of today, things are quite good compared to last week when there were demos because police were engaging people in engaging the demonstrators rather in running battles, and so businesses, most of them were closed. But as of today, their businesses are up and going, but not at snail's pace. And what they are asking the government and the opposition is that to have a truce, let them have dialogue and come to amicable solutions of what is befalling Kenyans. Of course, the cost of living is high, but there's need for dialogue to ensure that they come or they find a solution to this. And what we need is relative calmness and and all Kenyans to ensure that they live in peace and businesses are up and going. So far so good in the city. Relative calmness, as you can see, as my cameraman will show you around. Businesses are on as usual. Those operators, matatu operators, also say that businesses have peaked and today things are okay. And another spot check we did is that police security has been heightened in the CBD. There are police patrols everywhere we are going. Police are there, and people saying that what they're seeing, they are happy about it, and they want this relative calmness to continue in the city, and everyone to go on with their daily businesses. That's all we have from the CBD, Chuma, and of course we'll be back I'll be back in a subsequent bulletin as we compile a comprehensive report on what things are in the city. Back to you, Chuma.
Thank you, Mwandiga. Evident that business persons have opened shops at the Central Business District. Good to have you, Mwandiga. In other news, smallholder farmers in Kiambu County have been assured of flexibility to grow their businesses following construction of a multi-billion SME focused warehouse and logistics hub at Tatu City. The project, which is a joint initiative between Tatu City Limited, Chandaria Properties, M&T Construction and Steel Structures, is expected to provide space for storage of perishable farm produce in the agricultural-rich area.
Agriculture plays an integral part in the economy, with the sector contributing approximately 33% of Kenya's gross domestic product GDP. However, challenges in accessing the market coupled with post-harvest losses have been cited as the biggest hurdles affecting farmers. At Tatu City, a joint initiative between Tatu City, Chandaria Properties, M&T Construction and Steel Structures is setting up a multi-billion shillings small-medium enterprises warehousing project that is expected to provide space for storage of perishable farm produce.
I'm happy because SMEs will be able to get space where they can bring their produce, where they can bring their products at a reasonable price. It is close to the airport. We are close to the city.
Dubbed The Link, the latest Tatu City development will be Kenya's first small and medium enterprise warehousing and logistics park with special economic zone benefits.
We are looking at leasing their facilities so that they can be able to penetrate the market. And in regards to that, we've listened to the market and we've decided to come up with this particular product that is called the Link.
Construction of the warehousing project that will take 11 months to complete is set to revolutionize the socio-economic landscape and the way of doing business among SMEs, especially in Kiambu County.
Nairobi and the country at large needs new cities developed with better infrastructure. In particular, the industries need smaller, more flexible spaces, better design to suit today's needs of goods movement.
Frederick Moki for Lunchtime News.
Embu Governor Cecily Mbarire has directed all county offices to be buying tea leaves from the 3 tea factories in the devolved units as a way of expanding markets for locally made tea. Mbarire wondered why there was low tea consumption in Embu despite the county producing the best tea, which is mostly consumed outside the devolved units.
So ban of direct sales ni mambo ambayo ama ni mojawapo ya mambo ambayo yaliongelelewa kule Kilicho, na tulikubaliana ya kwamba hiyo ni mambo ambayo itafunguliwa. Wale buyers watakuwa wanataka kununua majani direct kutoka kwa factory zetu watakuwa wanaruhusiwa. Na sababu hiyo ni mambo ambayo ilikuwa katika act. Pia tuko na wabunge hapa ambao wamehakikisha hiyo mambo yote itaenda ilekebishwe.
Within Embu County, the proposed new bus park, I have promised 3 stalls tukimaliza kujenga tutapatia first priority kwa the 3 factories ndio waweze kuuza majani yao na tuweze kuimprove on local consumption.
The Agricultural Society of Kenya Kisumu Regional Show kicked off today at the Mambo Leo Showground in the county of Kisumu. The ASK Kisumu Regional Show chairperson George Ongudi has urged locals to flock the show, which has attracted at least 150 exhibitors from various fields such as trade, industry and academia to learn about sustainable agricultural practices.
I'm very happy that there's no demonstrations. So my role as the chairman for the regional show is to invite the showgoers to come. There's a lot of peace show in our Caribbean.
NCBA plans to open 10 branches this year in the lender's strategic expansion aimed at enhancing its retail business and providing convenient financial services to customers. This emerged as the lender opened its 89th branch in Kahawa Sukari, bringing to 3 the branches of NCBA in Kiambu County. NCBA Group Director for Retail Banking, Tyrus Muithiga, said financial inclusion is the cornerstone of a fair, equitable society and a thriving economy.
We've opened in Chwele in Bungoma County, Kahawa Sukari, Wote in Makueni, Isili, and in Migori. And it's part of a continuing journey where we'll, and there's a plan for another 10 branches this year. It's part of an ongoing investment program from NCBA. We've always believed that we've had customers across the country as the leading asset finance bank.
Across the border, 60% of post-harvest losses of tomato in Nigeria is as a result of poor storage facilities. Here now are the details of this and other stories making headlines across the globe.
In its World Economic Outlook, the IMF said through the ongoing energy crisis will drag economic growth lower this year, avoiding a technical recession in the first quarter of 2023 had given the Nigerian economy some hope. Nigeria, being the 13th largest producer of tomatoes in the world and the second after Egypt in Africa, is still unable to meet local demand because about 60% of tomato produce is wasted due to lack of storage facilities, poor handling practices, and poor transportation networks across the country. Elsewhere, the private sector in Zimbabwe says that it is ready to work with the government to exploit opportunities ushered in the prevailing stable economic environment to drive sustainable economic growth. Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce says the private sector was continuously engaging the government to ensure its policies succeed. The Zimbabwean government considers the private sector-led economic growth a key pillar for the country to attain all future growth targets, including its Vision 2030, by which time Zimbabwe is expected to be an upper middle-income economy. Finally, the International Monetary Fund has given South Africa some reprieve, forecasting the country's economic growth would not decline in 2023, as previously thought, as adverse risks to global growth have receded since April. South Africa's power utility Eskom has resumed implementing heightened levels of power cuts during peak hours as the current electricity generation struggles to meet rising demand after lower stages of load shedding in June. The IMF's growth forecast for 2023 is in line with the South Africa's Reserve Bank, which revised its GDP forecast from 0.3% to 0.4%.
Time to play. Welcome to Channel 1 Sports. The Kenyan team to the Youth Commonwealth Games is expected to leave the country next week for Trinidad and Tobago, with the games scheduled to start on the 4th to 11th of August. Team Kenya will be represented in 6 disciplines, namely athletics, rugby, swimming, triathlon, cycling, and para-athletics.
The team has been camping at Kasarani in Nairobi with the triathletes and swimmers based in Kilifi and Mombasa. As part of their preparation, they have undergone various training, including educational sessions with the Kenya Anti-Doping Agency in their efforts to promote clean sports and encourage fair competition in sports.
Just want to make sure that these young ones are aware that doping is a vice. Doping presents an unfair environment for participation, and doping is an issue which we really need to fight, because it negates the fundamental rights of all athletes to participate in a doping-free environment.
By equipping athletes with the necessary knowledge and resources through the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, ADAK aims to inculcate the youth with the same culture so they can avoid shortcuts and uphold the principles of clean sportsmanship.
NOC na Athletics Kenya hatutawaleta down, tutaleta medal, msikuwe na wasiwasi, tutaenda tutangangana na kila kitu itakuwa sawa.
The head of education at ADAK, Dr. Martin Yauma, provided the athletes with vital information on the risks of using banned substances which are detrimental to their health and the need to maintain their integrity.
Manchester United lost 3-1 to Wrexham in their second pre-season friendly of their US tour at Snapdragon Stadium. In another match, Lionel Messi led Inter Miami to another victory in the League's Cup as Miami defeated Atlanta United 4-0.
The Reds found themselves 2 goals down in the first half, but a strike from Mark Jurado on the stroke of halftime cut the Welsh side's lead.
And it's on by Cooper and in by Hayden. And Wrexham lead.
Dan Gore was harshly shown a straight red just 2 minutes into the second half, and they could not find an equalizer after Jurado's strike, with Wrexham's 2-goal lead restored later on in the second half. In another match, Lionel Messi's masterclass performance helped Inter Miami cruise past Atlanta United in the League's Cup. Messi opened the scoring in the 8th minute before adding another in the 22nd minute.
Forward, over to Robert Taylor. Taylor cutting it back. Martinez left it for Messi! Oh, my word!
Robert Taylor scored a brace before Thiago Almada missed a penalty for Atlanta United in the 86th minute. Miami has already advanced, while Atlanta will look for their ticket against Cruz Azul.
Robert Taylor. Oh, Robert Taylor! What a goal! Isolated with Ronald Hernandez. Almada coming back to help defend. Taylor to his left. Robert Taylor up and running. Robert Taylor off the post.
Japan has qualified for the FIFA Women's World Cup round of 16 after a 2-0 win over Costa Rica. The 2011 world champions sit second in Group C with a perfect record of 6 points and have yet to concede a goal.
Japan took the lead through Hikaru Naomoto in the 25th minute and made it 2-0 when Aobo Fujino sliced through Costa Rica's shaky defense 3 minutes later.
Fujino bearing down on goal. It's a tight angle, but she makes the most of it. And
Japan's passage into the knockout stages from Group C has been confirmed after Spain thrashed Zambia 5-0, who the Japanese also hammered 5-0 in their opening game.
That's a mistake and pushed away by Yamashita.
All right, and on that sporting beat, we've come to the end of Channel 1 Lunchtime News. Thank you so much for your company. Thank you for your feedback on our social media platforms. My name is Irene Mchuma Odem. On Sign Language Interpretation, we have Anne Wangeshi. For more news and more items, do log on to www.kbc.co.ke. My name is Irene Mchuma Odem.
Watu wako na kisirani, sijui kama ni bibi alimchapa jana, ni drama yoe. Hani nyanyuki ama na nini mheshimiwa? Tupia thrower, is it part?
Ati?
Tupia artist thrower, is it a part? Yangu lete. Nilitumia mbolea yako kuchora. Huko unasema.
Hapana.
Enda kwa labor ward.
Kwa labor ward ama kwa labor wafanyikazi? Ule kwa wafanyikazi.
Si ndio kwa labor ward.
Si labor ward.
Labor courts.
Labor ward ni pale ya mama kujifungua.
Sio huko. Why are you working with me mheshimiwa? Kwa nini? Nauliza.
Mimi naaguna na wewe.
Anga utakola kumangana kwa tayari mheshimiwa. Na waache tuongee na mama.
Unaondoka.
Give me the strength to do what I must.
Abraham, do not harm your child. For now I know that you fear God, seeing that you've not withheld your son, your beloved son.
Ujambo mpenzi mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1. Na asante kujiunga nasi, ni juma lingine tunakutana kulikunjua jamvi letu la mkulima ili kujifunza mbinu mbalimbali za kilimo zinazofanyika na wakulima mbalimbali hapa nchini. Kama desturi, mimi ni wako Frederick Mbadha. Ni mnyama ambao wengi wanamfahamu kwa hulka yake ya kutembea polepole. Wasichokijua wengi